Hello, everyone. My name is Micaiah Thacker, and I am from Crew 150, and I am joined here with co-host and Eagle Scout Adam Weaver, who will deliver today's invocation.
I'd like to begin our event by sharing the Camp Freelander grace. Please join me in prayer. For food, for friends, and for this place. For all of Scouting, we ask your grace. Through dark of night and light of day, Lord, be with us. This we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, in order to keep our program moving and to ensure that we get everyone out of here and back to work, you may sit down and begin to enjoy these salads placed on the table at this time. Lunch will be served during the program. Thank you. Now, please welcome our MC for today's luncheon, Cincinnati Pops conductor and Eagle Scout, John Morris Russell.
Hey everybody, good morning. That was pathetic. Good morning everybody. Thank you so very, very much, and welcome to the 2022 Good Scout Award Luncheon. Thank you, Micaiah, for the great intro, and Adam for your announcements. And I look forward to listening to both of you a little later on in the program. And a great round of applause for our color guard. You all looked really sharp. That was fantastic. It is a great pleasure to be here with you all in support of Scouting in our region and helping to pass along the principles of fair play, empathy, respect, cooperation, and leadership to our next generation. The challenges in our city, in our country, and around the world desperately need the skills and values that Scouting continues to nurture right here at home. Scouting was fundamental and foundational in my life. As a member of Troop 15 in the Lake Erie Council, our monthly camping experiences gave me a deep and abiding love of our natural world, as well as organizational and survival skills, which included finding a great hiding spot immediately after blasting reveille on my bugle first thing in the morning. Thank you. I'm here all week. The self-discipline, study, and practice that got me to the rank of Eagle Scout wrote focus to a formative and challenging time in my own life and helped lay the groundwork for many opportunities to come. The friendship and fellowship among my Scouting peers and parents created a space for positive social interactions that went beyond the weekly meetings and activities. As conductor of your Cincinnati Pops Orchestra and guest conductor with dozens of orchestras across the continent and around the world, I feel fortunate to have had the kind of leadership experience in my youth that has been applicable to just about everything that I do when I'm on the podium and off, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically fit, mentally and musically aware, and to have a strong moral compass and set an example for those around me. It is an honor to bring the extraordinary music of the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra to our region and around the globe. And it's also a great honor to join with all of you today. Right here, all of you right now, marks an important milestone for the Dan Beard Council. This is the very first time we've been able to gather for this event in person in 2 years. And I have never appreciated being together physically with everyone as much as I do right now. It's also a great honor to recognize the law firm of Dinsmore and Scholl for their extraordinary support of Scouting and leadership across the community. Dinsmore is a national firm with offices in 29 cities, including its headquarters right here in Cincinnati. Founded in 1908, Dinsmore has grown to over 750 attorneys in recent years and continues to strive for excellence as a diverse and inclusive law firm that serves both clients and community. While there are several leaders for Dinsmore represented with us here today, it's a pleasure to highlight two of these leaders who've been instrumental in scouting movement across our region. First of all, George Vincent, who is a managing partner of and chairman of Dinsmore. Widely respected as a corporate attorney, clients see George as a fair-minded, success-oriented, and accessible business connector. In addition to his roles at Dinsmore, George has served as the chair of many community organizations, including the Christ Hospital, the Cincinnati Art Museum, Cincinnati State, the Cincinnati Museum Center, and the Greater Cincinnati Foundation. George has served in multiple leadership roles with the Dan Beard Council. He's a past chair of the board of directors, an advisory board member, and currently serves as chair of the council's trust fund committee. In 2021, George and his wife, Kim, were honored by the Dan Beard Council as the 2021 Eagle Scout class honorees for their service within the community. Also from Dinsmore, Chuck Hertline, a lifelong Cincinnatian. He was recruited to Dinsmore from the University of Michigan Law School in 1979 and recently transitioned from full-time partner to of counsel retired. How sweet it is. He primarily practices in the area of corporate governance, securities and mergers and acquisitions, and continues to advise selected clients. Chuck is also an Eagle Scout and Silver Beaver Award recipient. The Silver Beaver Award recognizes scouters of exceptional character who have provided distinguished service within a council. This award represents the highest honor that a council can bestow upon a volunteer. Chuck has served on the Dan Beard Council's Board of Directors since 1997. He currently serves on the Executive Committee as Vice President of Administration and also the Council Attorney. Since 1991, he's served as the Committee Chairman of Troop 850, chartered by St. Ignatius Loyola Catholic Church, where his sons Chip and Jeff both earned their Eagle badges. And he remains quite active with both PAC and Troop 850. Chuck is a proud alumnus himself of Troop 598 in Evendale. Our keynote speaker today, I know everyone's excited about, is the mayor. And I'm not talking about AFTAB. The mayor, Cincinnati Greats Red, Sean Casey. Sean, it is fabulous to have you back home, and we're all thrilled that Major League Baseball is back in action. But first, we would also like to thank our sponsors, our platinum sponsor, Hal and Sandy Sheevers, our diamond sponsors, Emeritus, Steve Kokrich and Friends, Jack Kreitler, Procter & Gamble, Truist, Western and Southern Financial Group. Our gold sponsor is FFE Engineering and Architecture. Our silver sponsors, Apple Spice, Baker Concrete Construction, Cincinnati Bulk Terminals, Grant Thornton, Humana, the JTM Food Group, Richards Industrials, the Weaver Family, Tasmanian Freight Systems, and the University of Cincinnati. Great round of applause for all of our sponsors. Thank you so very, very much. Make sure also to take a little time today to get a look at your program to see the full list of sponsors and table captains for today's event. Thanks to each of you, every one of you, for your generous support of scouting across the region. We just simply could not be here without your support. Thank you. And now I'd like to recognize all of our current and former members of the Dan Beard Council Board of Directors who are here today. So would please, all of our Board of Directors, both past and present, please stand so we can say thank you for your service. Bravo, thank you. Today, we celebrate the scouting difference. there is just no other organization that offers a unique blend of adventure, leadership, life skills, and friendships that Scouting provides. Families are joining Scouting because parents appreciate what Scouting provides for their sons and daughters. As we proceed today, I encourage you to reflect on what Scouting means to you personally and share that on your social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and for our more tech and sosophisticated tech-savvy folks, ask your kids about this, you can use the hashtag GSAL2022, which stands for Good Scout Awards Luncheon 2022. You put that little hashtag and GSAL 2022 on everything you post, your photos, recollections, so that we can share this story with our community and the world. There are also instructions on your table sign on the program to help you with this process. Now, please enjoy this following video that celebrates the Scouting experience that we all know and love. Boy, that video of whitewater rafting reminds me of several adventures that we had in Troop 15. Our very first speaker today is Micaiah Thacker. Micaiah is the president of Venturing Crew 150 with the St. Paul United Church of Christ, and she is also the National Venturing Vice President of Administration. We had a little time to chat, and Venturing is an extraordinary a group that is totally fascinating for me. Micaiah joined Venturing at the age of 14 and earned both the summit rank and also wood badge beads. She also earned regional, area, and council Venturing Leadership Awards. A writer, Micaiah was selected as a winner of the 2017 BSA and Pulitzer Center's Out of Eden Walk Essay Competition. As such, she traveled to India to join with Paul Salopek, a National Geographic Fellow and Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who is walking around the world. Micaiah has written for Venturing Newsletter, Scout Life Magazine, Brian on Scouting, and also National Geographic. She was also a guest speaker at Venturing Fest 2018. Here at home at the Dan Beard Council, Micaiah was on staff for the National Youth Leadership Training for 5 years and also a senior patrol leader. Ladies and gentlemen, a great warm round of applause, and please welcome Micaiah Thacker. Cheers.
Hello, everybody. My name is Micaiah, and I'm the National Venturing Vice President of Administration and the President of Crew 150 in the Queen City District. My scouting journey began here in Dan Beard Council when I was 14 years old, and after I learned of venturing, and I decided it was the best thing ever, and so I joined Crew 150. If you are not familiar with venturing, it is a co-ed program for scouts aged 14 to 20. It is entirely youth-run and not just led. We like to say that the adults are there to make sure that nobody goes to jail or dies. Since I've joined Venturing, I've been able to do and learn some pretty incredible things. I went to National Youth Leadership Training and staffed it for 5 years, and I was eventually the highest youth leader of a week-long course last year. I participated in Wood Badge adult leadership training when I turned 18. I went to the National Jamboree in West Virginia in 2017, and then I won that essay competition centered on slowing down and being present. After winning, I was given the opportunity to travel to India to meet a journalist walking around the world. And yes, he really is walking, and yes, the entire world. I've written articles for National Geographic and Scouting magazines because of that experience. I went to the World Jamboree in 2019, and I was part of the delegation to the World Scout Conference and the Youth Forum, where Scouting representatives from around the world decide on World Scout leaders and policy. I was elected into the Venturing Officers Association, an organization where the youth in the venturing program run the program from a local level all the way up to the national level. And now I'm the national vice president of the entire program. I've also earned my summit rank, which is the venturing equivalent to Eagle. All of my experiences in Scouting have been incredible and invaluable to me. Scouting has given me experience being a leader, speaking in front of audiences both large and small, and working as a team and individual to achieve goals. My experiences and developed skills will be useful to me in any of my future jobs and careers, and they are useful to me now in my general life. None of those experiences would have been possible without the support of local Scouting. I never miss an opportunity to go to my local crew and go on an adventure with them, and their support has been invaluable to me through everything I've done in Scouting. So thank you so much for being here today to support the program that I love so much. Thank you.
Micaiah Thacker, everybody. Thank you so very, very much. Our next Scout speaker is Adam Weaver. Adam is an Eagle Scout from Troop 750 at the Heritage Presbyterian Church. Adam is a senior at William Mason High School. He was recently named a National Merit Finalist and has a 4.2 GPA. He joined Cub Scouts in 2010 as a Tiger Scout and went on to earn his Arrow of Light with Pack 323 in Mason. In 2019, Adam earned the National Outdoor Award for both camping and aquatics. Adam is also a first-degree black belt in Budo Taijutsu and has also been a soccer referee for the past 7 years. And that works out really well. I can see how the former benefits the latter, especially when dealing with soccer parents. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Adam Weaver. Come on, baby. Right there.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. Your presence shows that you believe in the power of Scouting. I want to share with you the impact the Scouting program has had on me through my time as a member of the world's largest youth organization. So this past summer, I completed my Eagle Scout project. I got inspiration for this project in 2013 when I was in Cub Scouts. My next-door neighbor, Danny Eichler, was completing his Eagle Scout project. For his project, he put in 2 large 10 by 10 foot chessboards at our local intermediate school. I got to help by carrying around pavers for the older scouts to put into place. And I thought that was very cool at the time. Later, when I went to that school, I got the opportunity to play chess on those large chessboards. And immediately, I knew that I wanted to do an Eagle Scout project at one of our local schools. So fast forward a number of years to last year, my project, which I did, was I created an outdoor learning area and installed a sensory path at our local elementary school. This involved laying over 3,500 square feet of AstroTurf and spreading 4 tons of sand, rocks, and gravel. All of this had to be done by hand as well because the doors to get into the courtyard were very small and you couldn't bring any equipment in. So it took over 1,800 hours to complete in total. and it would have cost the school district about 30 grand to install on their own. And it transformed what was once an unusable pit of mud into an area for students to play and develop their motor skills. After my project, Thank you. After my project was completed, I had the opportunity to return when school was in session and meet some of the students that use the area. Their teacher was particularly excited to introduce me to them because the students believed that their principal had created and designed the area. So when the students got to meet me, they were amazed at what a high schooler could do. And so I got the chance to talk with them, and while I was talking with them, I did my best to inspire those students the same way I was inspired by Danny Eichler and his Eagle Scout project. I encouraged them to dream big and to seek out ways they could give back to their community. Scouting is a great way to give back to your community and provides many, many benefits to dreaming big. But there are three I want to talk about today. So the first is mindset. And Scouting, via its motto of do a good turn daily, provides a really great mindset that encourages Scouts to seek out opportunities, be they big or small, to make the world a better place. The second thing it does is it provides the Scouts skills. You need the skills to both dream big and create plans, and then you need the skills to implement those plans, to make those dreams a reality. And Scouting provides you those skills. Without being in Scouting, I never would have been able to know all of the stuff I needed to do to make my Eagle project a success. And finally, and most importantly, Scouting fosters a group where Scouts can take inspiration from their fellow Scouts and provide inspiration to future Scouts to create a community of future leaders that work together to inspire one another and to create a better world. So as you can see, Scouting has been very relevant in my life and my success throughout. But my success in Scouting would not have been possible without the support of many. Because of you, Scouts like me and over 20,000 other young people in our area are impacted in a positive way. If you've already made a donation, thank you so very much. If you have not, please take the opportunity to support the boys and girls of Dan Beard Council. There are pledge cards at your table, and your financial investment will allow Scouts to remain strong and provide other youth the same opportunities I have had. As I go forward in life, I will always know that my experience in Scouting has prepared me for everything that has yet to come. Thank you for making an investment in my future and the future of all Scouts in greater Cincinnati and northern Kentucky.
Adam Weaver, everyone. Thank you, Adam. Bravo. As Adam mentioned, many of you are joining us today at a table sponsored by a company, which we greatly appreciate. Others are here because your table captain asked you to attend, which we also appreciate. This event is the single largest fundraiser for the local Scouting and represents nearly 1/3 of the Dan Beard Council's annual campaign. If you're interested in making a personal contribution to support the cause, and if you haven't done so already, please take a moment to fill out one of the pledge cards that's at your table right now. Your table captain will gather all the completed cards, and we will announce a final tally at the end of our program. That's always a very, very exciting moment. As an extra incentive, later on in the program, 3 donors picked from random will win an autographed baseball from today's speaker, Sean Casey. Winners will be picked at random from people who donated within this calendar year and those of you who are donating right now. Now, as you're finding that pledge card and filling it out, please enjoy this short video that tells a little story about Scouting.
one way to explore the world. My way is to push myself and never take the easy road.
I prefer a road that winds through forests and goes up mountains because I've always been an adventurer at heart. That's why I can't wait to be a scout.
Because scouting will guide me to great things. It won't just teach me to navigate the woods with confidence, but it'll give me the confidence to navigate the world.
I'll enter the Scouts as the best version of myself today and will grow into the best version of myself for my future.
Scouting will show me how to use bravery, trustworthiness, loyalty, and kindness to become a person I'm proud to be.
Because there's no one way to explore the world, and my way is in the Scouts. So
scout me in.
Scout me in. I love these videos. They're so inspiring. Fantastic. Our lunches are being brought out right now, so please don't hold back. Just dig right in. The purpose, as we've seen in this video and why we're all gathering here, the purpose of the Boy Scouts of America is quite simple. It's to build character and integrity in America's youth and to prepare them to become responsible adults. In 2021, one of the most challenging years any of us can remember, the Dan Beard Council did an amazing job of impacting our youth. And here to tell us more about the accomplishments of the Dan Beard Council in this most challenging of years is the Scout Executive and CEO, Mr. Andy Zahn.
JMR, my daughter's going to be so impressed I had walk-up music this afternoon. Thank you. And good afternoon to each of you. And on behalf of the thousands of young men and women who participate in local scouting programs, thank you so much for being in attendance today. Isn't it great to be back together in person to celebrate the extraordinary impact that scouting has in Cincinnati? Like every organization, we have weathered unprecedented times and challenges throughout the global pandemic, and I'm so incredibly appreciative of your unwavering commitment and support. If I could just very briefly go off script, I'd be remiss also not to encourage all of you to join me in just a very, very short moment to think of our fellow scouts in the country of Ukraine. And I hope that they know that their fellow scouts here in Cincinnati are thinking of them and their families. I am honored to be able to speak about our bright future in greater Cincinnati and northern Kentucky, but first, I'd like to give an update on the national bankruptcy and restructuring of the Boy Scouts of America. Our local Dan Beard Council is a separate 501c3 legal entity formed as a charitable organization. We're governed locally by our board of directors, and Dan Beard Council is not a direct party of the national BSA bankruptcy proceedings. However, I do feel it important to address our national organization's challenges. Earlier this week, after 2 years of intense mediation, the National BSA organization began its confirmation hearing in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court. Throughout this entire complex restructuring plan, the national organization has had twin goals. First, to fairly and equitably compensate victims of child abuse. And secondly, to ensure Scouting's mission continues for future generations of youth and families. Dan Beard Council, here locally, stands fully prepared to support these goals. But let me be clear. Any instance of child abuse, whether it occurred in 1990 or in 1960, is one instance too many. The vast majority of the allegations of abuse in scouting predate the early 1970s. In fact, scouting has developed itself into a national pioneer and youth protection. For nearly 40 years, we have served as an expert-informed model for countless other youth organizations. We are a proactive organization, and our attention to continually improve child safety in Greater Cincinnati continues today and will into the future. As an example, I am proud to announce today that Danbury Council is taking a leadership position in our community by hosting the first ever Youth Protection Summit this coming May. We are inviting any youth organization in our region to attend this free event and to hear from area experts on best practices in child development and safety. I would like to now focus on our future in Greater Cincinnati. Be prepared. For over 112 years, this has been the motto of Scouting. And while this motto is synonymous with Scouting, we are not just focused on preparation. We are focused on making a difference. As a country and as a society, we are up against real challenges. To become adults who can improve our communities, today's youth arguably need to obtain more skills, more education, and more relevant experiences than ever before. But they also need to develop their own unique talents, and most importantly, to enjoy the journey. Our future vision is to develop young adults who are exceptionally prepared to lead in their own way, to make positive impacts in their personal lives, in their professions, and the communities throughout their lifetime. And Danbury Council answers that challenge. Only Scouting provides the breadth and quality of proven foundational training, practical learning opportunities, and meaningful life lessons to help every young person discover and develop their own personal leadership style, all while building confidence, making friends, spending time with family, and having fun. We offer an unmatched range of relevant, hands-on, interactive programs such as leadership training, team building, and community service. We also provide experiences that build real self-confidence while reinforcing enduring core values. The power of our program is that it is adapted at the most local of levels in our community through partnerships with over 300 churches, civic clubs, and fraternal organizations who are partnering with Danbury Council today to deliver Scouting throughout our region. And something that is unique to Scouting is that we do all of this in the context of outdoor adventure, which is proven to go beyond other approaches to break down socioeconomic barriers, facilitate strong friendships, and enhance personal development in nearly every way. Even though Scouting has been an outdoor adventure program for over a century, quite frankly, I guess it took a global pandemic for us to realize the power of the outdoors. The power of the outdoors and personal and team development is far greater than perhaps we have ever realized. Quite simply, Scouting works. Scouting translates our motto, be prepared, into results through a flexible and adaptable program that meets the challenges of our nation and the contemporary demands of our society while maintaining our core values that have defined us for over 110 years, such as duty to God and duty to country. Scouts from generations past may have earned badges in poultry keeping, citrus fruit culture, bookbinding, and signaling. Today's Scouts are earning badges in sustainability, robotics, composite materials, computer programming, and game design. Danbury Council continues to evolve. We are certainly proud of our heritage, but we are more than campfires and square knots. Scouting advances positive change in our communities through hands-on experiential learning, teaching youth and adults to be respectful of others, and fostering a safe and inclusive, transformative experience that instills timeless core values that highlight both individual and community achievement. I'm excited this afternoon to announce our 3 core priorities for the next chapter of Danbury Council's rich local history. First is to position and deliver on Scouting as the premier development program for all youth, boys and girls. Scouting is a program that families can do together. Second is an unwavering commitment to overcome socioeconomic barriers to ensure that every youth can and ideally want to be a scout. And finally, to introduce youth to contemporary career fields and appropriate education and training to properly prepare them to be highly competitive in tomorrow's workforce. So, why support Scouting? To me, the answer is quite simple when you think of two questions. First, how much better will our community be if every citizen went through Scouting as a youth? And secondly, how much more competitive would your company be if everyone you hired had been a scout? Thank you for being in attendance today and considering an investment in local Scouting. I look forward to our continued partnership to make Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky a better place. It is now my pleasure to introduce Bob Taylor. Bob is our volunteer chair of the Danbury Council Board of Directors. Bob is a distinguished Eagle Scout and recently retired as a partner and the chief operating officer of the U.S. audit practice with Grant Thornton. Bob?
Oh, thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Eagle Scout John Morris Russell for being today's MC. Please join me in thanking John for his willingness to be here, part of our program today. I'll have to try to look out at the audience today since we're live and in person. I'm so used to being hunched over and looking at a Zoom or a Teams call. It's just incredibly energizing to be here today and to look out and see everyone. And again, thank you for attending. For my brief remarks today, I'd like to generate some pictures for you to imagine in your own mind's eye, just to give you a glimpse of the value that Scouting brings. Back during the summer, we had a Dan Beard Council board visit to our primary resident summer camp. To see our youth excitedly coming together in promotion of the ideals Scouting represents was incredibly uplifting for all of us. It reminded me of why all of our volunteers do what they do and work as hard as they do to help all of our youth locally here in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. So while visiting camp, it's always enjoyable to hear the young boys and girls laughing, shouting, yelling. But I'll tell you something much more important is actually going on. So let me tell you what I saw during this specific visit so you can try to visualize this along with me. This is a bit like one of those scenes in a movie where you see it and then later on they come back and show it again from different angles, slow motion, so you can actually see what went on. So again, try to visualize this if you could. I'm going to begin with a group of scouts that I saw coming up from their campsite to the big parade area for the evening lowering of the American flag. They were kicking up dirt, joking, playing around, really as kids do when they're in a clustered group. But I will tell you, what it really looked like to me was something different. It was much, much more than that. So in the movie, if you will, and kind of a replay of that scene, if you will, so to speak, what you really see is a group of diverse kids learning to come together in acceptance of each other, neutralizing their own socioeconomic differences by wearing a common uniform and coming to show respect for the American flag, all because of the opportunity and environment that our program affords. I then walked down to the large lake that our camp has. Now this lake, hopefully there's a picture up there. Our lake has a giant white inflatable iceberg floating in it. It's about, 20 feet tall, as you can see, and the kids try to climb to the top and jump off. Now, that is not an easy feat, and I'm willing to bet there isn't a single person in this room today that could actually climb that and get to the top. It's tough watching these kids. But as you stand there watching, you hear them yelling, laughing, and you see kids, falling off, in groups trying to get up, but slipping and all that as it gets too steep. But they were just nothing but smiles, and they were really, really having fun. You can also see, canoes being launched into the lake from the shoreline as the kids scramble to jump into their boats. Now, having fun is surely a part of scouting that I remember as a youth and a young person, and these kids really, really had that going on that particular day. But let's play that scene back for you again in slow motion. What I see and why I'm so motivated to help the scouting program was this. Over on the left side of the big white iceberg, in a canoe floating out on the water, is a peer youth lifeguard protecting all that fun. That young scout lifeguard was learning the discipline of showing up on time for their work shift. To do a job, even if it meant, in this next part, for those of you that are parents in the room, heaven forbid, he wasn't the center of attention having fun at that moment. Instead, he was taking on the responsibility of caring for others, even at a very young age. Now, off to the right of the iceberg, on the shoreline, where the canoes were being launched, was a scout teaching a group of inexperienced canoers how to work their boats safely. You could see the youngsters listening intently with a combination of excitement, eagerness, and maybe even a little bit of fear on their faces as they stared up at the young instructor. Here you could see this young instructor learning to speak to the group in an organized and a complete manner. He was learning how to keep the attention of his students and learning to take on the responsibility that comes when others look up to you for guidance. Here also, you could see the students learning to pay attention and respect the knowledge being imparted, learning to trust someone, and preparing to challenge and test themselves and to do something they had never done before, to take the risk to go out on the water in a canoe. And oh yes, back to the big white iceberg. I was watching one of the scouts climb all the way to the top and jump off. But you know what I saw? I saw a young scout who had set a goal. He had tried several times and failed, but he worked extremely hard to accomplish his goal. And you know what that scout did right after jumping off and splashing into the water? He swam back to the iceberg and started yelling up to his friends that were trying to climb and encouraging them that they too could make it all the way to the top. And I think we call that dedication to a goal, hard work, and helping others around you succeed. So the laughing and fun these kids were having, using nature's outdoor classroom, they're all part of the SAFE program to learn timeless, non-judgmental values. Which of you wouldn't want your employees or your coworkers to exhibit any of the traits that I've just mentioned today, and hopefully you've been able to visualize in your own mind? I hope my slow motion replays help you see at least a few of the examples of the value proposition the Dan Beard Council brings every single day through its activities. I also hope you see the importance of wrapping it all up and having a little bit of fun. As we look to the future of scouting and the Dan Beard Council in particular, I appreciate our inclusive nature. For my wife Ann and I, our two daughters were raised before the traditional scouting programs were open to young women. And for me personally, that's very, very unfortunate. I truly wish they had had the opportunity to benefit from scouting the way that I have, and the way that many of you sitting in this room today have benefited. We have the premier youth development program right here in the Dan Beard Council. The value of learning life skills and learning leadership, as each person defines it for themselves, is applicable to all of our youth, and we are striving to make it available to all of our community. Through the support of folks like you and like the gentleman that I am about to introduce, the Dan Beard Council is leading the way in preparing youth to be real difference makers in our communities and in our future workforce. So today, I am pleased to honor two gentlemen and their firm who embody the characteristics of being trustworthy leaders and who have been loyal volunteers to our community. The Dan Beard Council deeply appreciates their relentless dedication to the youth in our community and to scouting. So please join me in welcoming the 2022 Good Scout Award people here. Chuck Hertline, George Vincent of Dinsmore and Shoal. Please come up. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of Dinsmore and Shoal and my friend and colleague, George Vincent, thank you very much for this honor. We really appreciate it, and it's been our pleasure to support the Scouts in any way we can over the years. Before I forget, I want to thank Troop 15 from Erie Shores Council for bringing us John Morris Russell as the maestro of the Cincinnati Pops. He had big shoes to fill, and he more than filled them, and he's been a wonderful addition to Cincinnati, and thank you. Thank you very much. Some might ask, why does a firm like Dinsmore and Shoal support the Scouts at the level that we do? I can speak for myself personally. I joined the Cub Scouts in 1963 and have been involved one way or another ever since. I have to say that Maestro Russell is an example, I think, of why scouting is important. He earned Eagle Scout. I'm going to guess that you earned some of the music-related merit badges. I'm sure he did. First one, yeah. And that's an example of career development and also learning to be prepared and to be an organized person and to be a contributing member of society. You know, we learn good citizenship, good character, leadership skills, as well as career development. All of these things are very valuable to the individual Scouts, but also to the community at large. It's an important contribution, and that's why I'm involved and have been for years. Now, I have to confess that my favorite part of being a volunteer was being involved in my son's troop, Troop 850 at St. Ignatius Parish. But I found that, first of all, yes, that's fun and it's great, but you need somebody in the background, somebody working in an office someplace, making it all possible. And I was drawn into that, kind of kicking and screaming in some cases, over a period of years. I was originally recruited by a client, and one never says no to clients when they ask you to do things, so I got involved. That was quite a few years ago, and have been involved ever since. It's no secret that, as Andy alluded, the past couple of years has been extremely challenging between the national bankruptcy and the COVID situation. It's been one thing after another. And so instead of concentrating on helping to organize programs for the Scouts and doing all the fun stuff, we've had to do some of the, the less enjoyable things, but no less important. So that's where we are. And it's not just me and it's not just George. There have been a number of folks at Dinsmore who I do want to recognize today because they've been very busy over the last couple of years helping us out. A couple of partners, Lee Stoutberg and Sarah Cameron, don't know if they're here or not today, have been instrumental in working through some endowment trust fund issues that the council has had and have brought them to a successful conclusion. Mike Mattingly. Mike is an Eagle Scout from Danbury Council. He's an Army combat veteran. Now he's an employment lawyer at Dinsmore. And he has been very busy with a number of issues, some of them COVID related, others not. Extremely helpful and plays a key role in keeping the organization going. Rick Paratsky, a litigation partner, is also a Cub Master and an Eagle Scout father, and he does all kinds of things for the council. I think Rick's over there someplace. And finally, I would mention Ben Wells. He's a pension lawyer. We've had pension issues at the council. Ben was a Scoutmaster, and he was also an Eagle Scout father. So it's been a great thing, and Dinsmore is proud to be a part of this. One last point. We're not the only lawyers who support Dinsmore, or who support Danbury Council. There are a number of them here in the room today. I've seen them. Lawyers get a bad rap sometimes, but in fact, as a group, they are very committed to making our community a strong place, and we owe all those lawyers a thank you today for helping us out. So thanks, everybody. George?
Thanks, Chuck. You got people to clap for lawyers. That's a pretty impressive job. So Chuck's an Eagle Scout, all these Eagle Scouts, Eagle Scout parents. I was a Cub Scout for 3 months. True story. We got to knots, I was out. Please accept my thanks, both personally and on behalf of Dinsmore, for this singular honor. There are few organizations in our nation that have had as profound an effect on our nation as the Boy Scouts. They've done an unbelievable job through good times and bad times. And today, as our world faces global health challenges, a brutal invasion, rapidly changing social constructs, the need to be prepared has never been greater. Scouting delivers on that imperative every day, and all the people in this room help deliver on that imperative. So again, my thanks for all of you being here, for supporting Scouting, and for this honor. As always, I've been brief. Thank you.
Another great round of applause for Chuck and George. Thank you so very, very much for your comments and everything that you've done to support Scouting here in Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. And I would like now also to recognize the team of volunteers who put this entire presentation together, our incredible Good Scout Award Luncheon Committee. Would all of those people please stand so we can say thank you for an extraordinary job? Please stand up so we can say thank you to all of our volunteers. Thank you all. And now we've come to introduce our keynote speaker, the mayor. Sean Casey is one of the most outgoing and likable players ever to wear a Cincinnati Reds uniform. Sean exploded onto the Cincinnati scene in 1999, endearing himself to the entire community. It was a career-defining year for Casey. The Reds' first baseman batted .332. He smacked 25 homers, drove in 99, scored 103 runs, had 197 hits, and doubled 42 times. Extraordinary. Over the course of his playing career, he was a 3-time National League All-Star for the Reds, a career .302 hitter that included 130 home runs and 735 RBIs. And for everyone who loves Sean, he now appears on the MLB Network. Ladies and gentlemen, great Cincinnati and Scouting welcome for the mayor, Sean Casey.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you, John. Bam! Thank you, John. Come on here. Hey, first off, it's so great to be here. Wow. I'm blown away. Can you guys do me a favor and all stand up really quick? Really, just bring it up. You know, the food was really good, and I'm so grateful. I want you guys all, for real, I mean, just being out there, meeting a lot of people involved with the Scouts. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here today. This is really, really cool. Thank you. I was looking for a standing ovation to get this party started too anyhow, so thank you. Last standing ovation I had was 2001. I homered in the opening day, that's a good place to homer an open day in Cincinnati, and big standing ovation. So I was always very grateful for that. I just want to say thank you so much to the Scouts for having me today. I mean, this is such an honor. It's so funny, when Andy was up here talking, we had this scheduled for 2 years ago, and it was all set to go, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, and here we are a couple years later. So better late than never, you know what I mean? So I'm very glad to be here. I think, one thing that's so cool about, being here and being around the Scouts, boy, the energy in this place is pretty awesome. And I was talking to a couple of friends beforehand, saying to myself, wow, why is the energy so good with the Scouts? Like, what is it about you guys and about the people that support the Scouts and the companies that know how important this organization is? And I think the one word that pops in my head was service. You guys serve the community. You guys serve each other. And I think when you have that, it brings a really cool energy. So, for that, I just want to say, thanks a lot. That energy that I got seeing you guys already was really cool. Today's going to be great. We're going to tell a couple stories. Some of these stories that I'm going to tell you guys, I can't believe they happened to me. That's so ridiculous. Some of them are so fun and funny. And some of them are, serious too. Some times I've had with my dad and a couple other things. But, it's funny being back here in Cincinnati. I am so grateful for this place. I am so thankful. I'm so grateful. Getting traded here, years ago was one of the greatest things, that ever happened to me. And in my group that I hit with was, and this is a cool thing too. I look back now at 47 years old. I say, wow, my hitting group was me, Ken Griffey Jr., Adam Dunn, and Austin Kearns. And we had some great times. And in your last round's the home run round, right? And Ken Griffey Jr. say it's the grown folk round. Let's go to grown folks territory, to the gaps. And I'm like, all right. And meanwhile, I'm just trying to hook balls to, pull balls. Ken Griffey Jr. is just launching balls. Dunner's hitting them out of the stadium. It's unbelievable how good these guys were. And, I remember something about that group, and something about in the big leagues, what we used to talk about is live in the gaps, right? The power's in the gaps, right? And what does that mean? The left center gap, the right center gap in the baseball field are the biggest parts of the park, right? That's where a lot of success lies. If you go watch the best hitters in the game, the guys that maybe make the most money, they live in those gaps. It's the strength of the gaps, right? It's something about, that last round when I was with Ken Griffey Jr. and we would talk about, hey, all right, you got to go to left center, right center, left center, right center. And as a hitter, when you can hit the gaps, it's tough to pitch to you, right? Because if I can hit the left center gap, I was a left-handed hitter. If I can hit the left center gap, that means you're trying to throw me something away. If I can go there and you try to come in and I can go to right center, man, you got a big problem on your hands. That means that the skills have been developed. And, today, it's funny, as my life comes full circle, I got 4 kids. One's at the University of Dayton. I went and saw him yesterday. We drove to Purdue, which is not right down the street anyway. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. I was like, wow, this isn't right down the street. So we went to Purdue yesterday, saw my son play. Can't believe he's 20 years old. My other son is playing baseball at Kent State. He's almost 19. And I have 2 little girls, 2 at home, 16 and 11. And it's so funny how life comes full circle. And that GAPS has, really been an acronym for life for me. The power's in the gaps. And so I want to bring that to you today. And boy, it's amazing because the gaps I'm going to talk about really ties into the Scouts. I mean, just so much, so many parallels there, which is really cool. The first part of the gap is grit. And I can't think of a better city when I think of the word grit. And I think of some of the great players that have played here in this city, the Pete Roses, the Johnny Benches, the Joe Morgans, the Frank Robinson, Ted Kluszewski, the Barry Larkins, Ken Griffey Jr., gamers, guys that were, gritty beats pretty every time, guys that were coming for you every night, the Big Red Machine, all those guys were just gritty players. And Dr. Charles Dillard, too, who's in here, was the greatest living Cincinnatian, just got the greatest living Cincinnati award. Let's give Doc a round of applause. don't know where you are, Doc. What a humble man. I met him out there. He's like, hey, we're a big fan of yours. And then he walked away, and Pete and I, the photographer, were talking like, hey, listen what this guy did. I'm like, wow, it's unbelievable. You know, sometimes the humility of people. And so it was so wonderful. That's grit, right? And you know, that's, you know, the first virtue I think of with grit is, it's funny how one of the grittiest guys probably this country's ever seen is probably a big reason I'm here in Cincinnati talking to you guys today. I'm going to rewind it a little bit. Back when I was with the Cleveland Indians, I came up in the minor leagues with the Cleveland Indians, got called up in '97, got 2 hits, I was like, yes, you know, if I get 2 hits and I don't play again, at least I got 2 hits, I'm in the books, you know. And that was kind of the dream come true. But I was behind a guy named Jim Thome, who was a pretty good player. I just signed a 5-year deal. They just moved him over to first base. So in 1998, when I came with the Cleveland Indians to spring training, you know, I had just had an unbelievable year in AA and AAA in the minor leagues. I hit 380. You know, I'm thinking I'm going to be the next guy, you know, that's going to be the Cleveland Indians first baseman. Wasn't turning out that way at spring training. I was having a good spring training, but Jim Thome obviously was ahead of me, so, you know, things were going to be tough. So I was doing anything I could to impress the manager, Mike Hargrove, at the time. So I'm like, man, I'm hitting well. I'm playing good defense. I'm filling in for Jim Thome. This is working out great. And so one day I decided, you know what? I'm going out early today. I don't know why. You know, I was just a little brown nose, and I'm 23 years old. I was like, I'm going to show Mike Hargrove. I'm 35 minutes before the game time in the dugout, right? So I walk out 35 minutes, bam, I'm in the dugout. Mike Hargrove's there. Torey Lovello's there, who now is the manager for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And it's funny that Torey was there because I was 23 trying to impress Mike Hargrove. Lovello was 35. He was on his way out, but obviously he was doing the same thing in the dugout, trying to impress Mike Hargrove, being out there 30 minutes early. One of the grittiest guys probably that this country's ever seen would come out every day. His name was Bob Feller. And Bob Feller was 78 at the time, and would come out every day to throw, they would introduce him. They would say, 10,000 people strong win him for. They'd say, everybody, let's give it up for the living legend, number 19, Bob Feller. And Bob Feller would come out, you know, spikes high, full uni, get his hat going, right? It was just an unbelievable thing. You'd see Bob every day. Now listen, let me tell you a little bit of background about Bob Feller. Bob Feller called up to the big leagues when he was 17, was the first pitcher at the time to win 24 games before he was 21 years old. He was probably one of the first guys to throw 100 miles an hour, and back then that was kind of unheard of. But the most impressive thing about Bob Feller was at the age of 23, Bob Feller, when World War II hit, when we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, in the prime of his career, Bob Feller left Major League Baseball to go serve 4 years in the Navy for World War II and fought that war on both fronts, in the Pacific and the Atlantic front. Just an amazing guy. Became a gunner captain on the ship on USS Alabama, was literally a living legend, Bob Feller. So when he would come out they would come out to introduce Bob Feller, the place would go nuts, 10,000 people screaming. Well, every day Feller would come out, a player would throw catch with him, right? And so the one day Mike Hargrove was like, hey, Case, why don't you throw a catch with Bob Feller? I was like, this will be great. I have 2 hits in the big leagues, and if I throw a catch with Bob Feller, I'll have another story to tell one day, right? So I'm like, this is great. So I was so excited, 23 years old. I'm just, you know, I run out there, hey, Mr. Feller, how you doing? So nice to meet you. And he's like, hey, nice to meet you, son. He's like, are you throwing catch with me today? I'm like, yeah, I'm throwing catch with you today. It's great. So sure enough, I back up, you know, crowd's still standing. Bob Feller throws me the ball, I get it, you know, and I'm probably 30 feet away, and I give him a nice and easy toss. Boom, he catches it, throw it back. So after my third throw, Torey Lovello, who's in the dugout, says, hey, Case, he's like, you got to clean it up. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm talking to Torey, what do you mean clean it up? He's like, you're showing up the greatest American hero of all time. You're lobbing it to Bob Feller. And I'm like, I am? He's like, yeah, you can throw it, man. You can throw it. This guy's an absolute stud. So I'm like, all right. But what Torey didn't realize, and what I didn't kind of realize at the time, is I had the yips. And if anyone knows what baseball is, the yips is when you can't throw the ball too well. And there's 2 ways to throw when you have the yips. You can either lob it like this, or you can back up and put a little juice on it, but you get enough distance where it's okay. But there's no medium with the yips, right? So I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't want to show up Bob Feller, so I'm going to back up a little bit. So I start backing up a little bit, and Bob Feller's kind of looking at me like, okay, I just want to get out of here. Can you throw the ball? I'm like, okay, I'm trying to gauge it. I don't want to show up the greatest American hero of all time. I back up, and they're, hey, Bob, you ready? Okay, bam, I sling it to Bob Feller. And Bob, he's one of the grittiest men this country's ever seen. The ball's coming to him. It's like 20 feet away, and now it's 10 feet away. And Bob Feller, I can see the ball's over here, and Bob's glove's still over here. I'm like, what the heck's Bob Feller doing? And next thing you know, boom, it hits Feller right in the heart. And he just staggers right, staggers left, and he's like, boom, and he just face plants. And I'm like, dear God, I just killed Bob Feller. I go running up like, Mr. Feller, are you okay? Slapping him around, He's literally face planted in the grass, just going, oh. And literally, I'm number 56 at the time. And if you're 56 at spring training, that means you're a middle linebacker. You're basically on your way out at some point. And I can hear the crowd going, who's 56? Who's 56? And I'm like such panic mode. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 56. And I just hit Bob Feller in the heart. He's down. EMTs come flying out of the stands. Like, now we got a real problem. Crowd's up. Could hear a pin drop, right? I'm like, oh my God, this is like worst case scenario of my life. And next thing you know, they come out, Mr. Feller, are you okay? And he's just like, oh. Now here comes the training staff. They're out there now. It's training staff, EMT's like, back up, son. You're 56. Like, oh. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be released? I'm going to be out of here soon. So they finally so now the team comes out. This is another great part of the story. The team comes out. It's about, game time's almost happened. And Jim Tomey comes up to me, and we're all kind of gathered around. He's like, hey, Case, what happened here, man? What's wrong with Feller? I was like, I was playing catch with him, and I drilled him right in the heart. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah. I can't believe it. So anyway, they get Bob Feller. 10 minutes, they get him up. They finally get him to his knees. Crowd goes nuts. They get him out. Bob, what happened? What happened? He's like, I was golfing yesterday, and I must have jammed my shoulder with the driver. He's like, and the young lad threw the ball just a little too hard, and it just caught me right in the heart and just knocked the wind out of me. I'm like, oh my God. So they get him up, get him in the ambulance. Out he goes. And next thing you know, they take him away, and Mike Hargrove comes up to me, puts his arm around me. He's like, man, Case, he goes, you're the luckiest guy in the world. I said, why? Why is that, Mike? He's like, man, had you had killed Bob Feller, you definitely would have been traded or released. I'm like, jeez, thank God. Well, I was traded to the Reds a week later. So I like to think the grittiest man in the world had a part of me coming to Cincinnati. Rest in peace, Bob. Oh my gosh. What's funny is you can bring it back. I think when that happened, I did think I was going to get released, and then I got traded to the Reds and obviously had a new life. But I go back to the journey of just getting to the big leagues. You talked about the 2 hits and the catch of Bob Feller, and it kind of makes you think. It brings you back to like my journey of like, man, I see a lot of similarities to the scouts' journey, and to my journey, and to a lot of guys. I tell you what, that get to the level of playing professional baseball. There's a lot of the same things. Being prepared, having discipline, the work ethic. Being able to master your skills. To get to where you want to get to. And I remember I was 14 years old. I was a freshman in high school. And my dad, I was the best player probably 10, 11, 12 years old, right? And when I got to 14 years old, for whatever reason, that awkward year in freshman year, like some kids were becoming men. I really wasn't yet. I kind of was still talking like this. Hey, let's go get them out there, guys. And next thing you know, the guys are hitting balls over the fence, and I'm really not, but I'm still a good hitter, right? I'm still a good player, still one of the best players. I remember coming home one day, my freshman year, I'm not playing at all. It's probably like 8 games into the year, and then when you're from Pittsburgh, and just like I know in Cincinnati, it gets cold here those first few months, so you might play 16 games. So I'm eight games into it. I go home to my dad. I say, hey, Dad, hey, do me a favor. Can you go talk to the coach? Guy has no idea how good I am. He obviously didn't get the memo from 12-year-old travel when I was the home run king, but obviously that's another story. And I was like, can you go talk to the coach and just, let him know that I'm really good and I should be playing. And man, as a dad, and I think all of us in here that are parents, man, sometimes we have conversations with our kids that maybe could change the trajectory of their life. This was one of them for me. Because my dad was so great because he didn't do what I asked. And what he told me was, I'm not going to talk to the coach. He said, one thing I can see is you're obviously not glaringly better than the other kid. I was like, well, you know I'm a good player, Dad. He's, yeah, but the coach doesn't know it. And if you were, he would see it and you would play. And he said to me, he said that there's a batting cage that just opened up the town next to us. I'll make you a deal. You start putting in the work. I'll pay for every single token that you put in that batting cage. And as soon as you stop, the deal's off. And I knew that was a big deal for my dad because he didn't make a ton of money, chemical salesman, kind of a grinder, traveling all the time. You know, I knew the value of a dollar at the time. And I said, you got a deal, Dad, right? And I started to go hit every day. And what you guys were talking about, the scouts, is the sign outside, be prepared. My dad the message to me during this time was preparation meeting opportunity. You're going to get an opportunity to play JV. You're going to get an opportunity to play varsity and maybe play Division I baseball one day. He goes, what a shame it would be if you weren't ready when that opportunity came. And that stuck in my mind. So I started hitting every day, hit, right, getting after it. And the biggest thing was my dad was like, you have to be accountable for yourself, accountable for the work you put in, accountable for how you show up. And I started to hit every day, and wow, it started to work. I was like, man, my dad's got something here, man. Repetition is the mother of skill, right? You really start hitting, it really works. You start becoming a better hitter. What's great is I ended up starting my next year at JV. Then I played varsity in my junior year and my senior year. And then another lesson comes around and pops back in, right? So here I am, senior year. I'm one of the best hitters in the Pittsburgh area. Not one scholarship offer. I mean, not even from Division III. I'm trying to go to NAIA. I'm doing everything I can. Like, just somebody, I'll just give me a walk-on. I'll come on, right? And my dad at the time had just started his own company. He was doing a lot of network marketing. He said, you know what, Sean? Nobody's coming to help you out in life. You got to go. Sometimes you got to go take it. You got to go do it yourself, right? And he's like, why don't you sit down and write 30 letters to 30 different colleges you want to go to? And so I did. Boom, one day after school, I sat down. You know, I didn't type it because that was back then. It was like, I think there was still whiteout going on. I'm like, no, I'm not whiting out everything. You know what I mean? I'm going to sit down, and I wrote the letters. One to Penn State, one to Clemson, College of Worcester, Marietta, you know, wherever I could go. It was Division I to Division III, you know, write out these letters. And then my dad, at the last second letter, he's like, hey, send one to University of Richmond. He goes, they sent you a brochure. This is how it was going back then in like 91. They sent you a brochure. I'm like, brochure? I didn't even know what a brochure was. I'm like, all right, cool. Last letter I write to University of Richmond, bam, send it out. There's 5 games to go in my senior year. I have no idea where I'm going to college, really not going to play baseball anywhere. Preparation meeting opportunity starts coming. I kind of thought to myself, my dad's, he's full of it. This preparation meeting opportunity hasn't worked out. Where the heck's the opportunity, right? So that day I go have one of the greatest days of my life. 4 for 4, 4 doubles, 8 RBIs, right? And my coach comes up to me at the end of the game and goes, man, how many hits you have? I go, 4 hits today, 8 RBIs. That's great. He goes, man, that's great. He goes, see that guy behind the backstop? That's the University of Richmond coach. He drove 6 hours to come see you play. I was like, wow, you got to be kidding me. He comes up to me after the game. We talk a little bit. They offered me a $1,000 scholarship, which at the time, I think it was $30,000 to go to Richmond, and I know my dad was making $33,000 a year. I'm like, we got another problem on our hands. I don't think we can afford college. You know, he's like, we'll take a second mortgage out. We'll figure it out, right? So I ended up going to University of Richmond. Only offer I have for anybody. What's amazing was he was right. I start my freshman year, freshman All-American. I go to the Cape Cod League my sophomore year. My junior year, I win the NCAA batting title as the #1 hitter in Division I baseball. Crazy how, you know, it goes from still putting the work in, still being accountable for myself, and still getting after it. And then a couple years later, obviously, I'm a second-round pick of the Cleveland Indians, and all of a sudden I'm in Cincinnati 3 years later, and, you know, just so thankful to be here. But that accountability factor, especially from those conversations with my dad, was so big. You know, it's funny, too. I remember my dad, as I was on my journey to the big leagues, he would say, hey, what's your purpose? What's your why? What's the reason you want to play in the big leagues? Is it for fame and fortune, or is it for service and impact? And wow, when I'm in this room, I think of so many questions, you know, with the scouts that are coming up, whether they're Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, and obviously the 8%ers, the Eagle Scouts. You know, I think that question that we all ask ourselves, the why of what we do, what's the purpose of why we do it? And the greatest thing is, man, that service and impact is such a cool thing, and I think that's what it's all about. And it couldn't be more fitting for this room, is that purpose-driven life, is really sitting here, in the Scouts. And it is amazing to look into the Eagle Scout and to see, the 21 merit badges you have to get, and just everything that's so hard to become that Eagle Scout. And I was talking to Adam Weaver before I got up here on stage, and I was asking him about his project of that last part of becoming that Eagle Scout. And he talked about the sensory courtyard he built for those kids so that they could, get some energy going and coming into school. And I just think, how amazing is that these kids that are going for the Eagle Scout to the highest level are at such a young age thinking about service, impact, and purpose. And I just, I think that's it's amazing. And what it really does is it makes me think about gratitude. Like I think of the ultimate superpower of what we do and how thankful we should be. And I do one thing every morning. I always write down somebody or something I'm grateful for, and I always write 5 reasons why. And as I come back here to Cincinnati, there were so many guys that helped me on my journey of being a big league ball player, and guys that I came across. And one of those guys was Joe Nuxall. And let's give Joe Nuxall a round of applause. Because I think Joe Nuxall, for anyone that knew Joe Nuxall, who knew Nuxie and what he stood for, man, he stood for everything that goes on in this organization. He was such a wonderful man. He was so kind to me when I first came out to the big leagues. But when I think of being grateful for Joe Nuxall, I think about how kind he was to me. I think about how empathetic he was to so many different guys. He knew how hard the game was. I think how funny he was. He brought a lot of laughter, a lot of energy to our room. I think about just all the service work that he did. I almost feel like Nuxie never said no to anybody. Nuxie was always at a camp, at a school, doing everything. And one of the things, a quick story with Nuxie and I, one time we were going to Fairfield Elementary School and for this character education program. He's like, Case, you want to come with me? I'm like, yeah, Joe Nuxall asked me to come with him. I'm going, right? So we pull up in Nuxie's car. We're getting ready to get out, and these kids are just flying. They're just flying down to meet up with us. And I jump out of the car, and this one kid comes flying up, probably like me in 3rd grade. He's all excited. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? He's like, you didn't hear? Joe Nuxall and Sean Casey are here. I go, no way, where are they? He goes, they're down there. He goes bolting down, flying down. It was like, oh my gosh, man. But Joe Nuxall just had that. He was always connecting with people, always connecting with kids. And, for me, the gratitude that I have, for him is unbelievable. I think also, too, when you think about, playing in the gaps, and what that means is, I think a big part is the action word. And I think when I look at the Scouts, I see that's what you guys are all about. I see action, making sure you're doing your projects, making sure you're impacting the community and taking action. I think, it's for me, there's a good story I heard recently, and I think this is great. I think sometimes, I know for me when I was playing, people would always say, man, whenever you were struggling, the media would come up to you and say, hey, man, you're 0 for your last 12, 6 strikeouts. What's going on there? And I think the mind frame, it's amazing when you think the mind frame you have in the big leagues, and then when the mind frame you have now as not in the big leagues. Back then it was just like you always had to stay in the mode of bring it on. Anything that's hard, bring it on. It was almost like whenever I got nervous, I would say to myself, I got this, right? And one of the things I would always say was, when the media would ask me, I'd say, hey, the storm's coming tomorrow. The storm's coming, I'm heading right for it. I'm gonna, oh, you're facing Randy Johnson tomorrow. That's cool. Whoever I need to face, I'm gonna run right for it. And I love the story. I love the story about the buffaloes and the cows that share the same plains in Wyoming. And they said the storms that come in there are dark, and they come in with heavy lightning, and they come in hard. And what's great is when they start coming in, the buffaloes get together and they say, I don't know if they say this to each other, but I think they do. Hey, guy, listen, the storm's coming. We're buffaloes. We're going to feel a little bit of pain and discomfort, but let's run right for it. And they do. They get together, and bam, they run right for the storm. They hit it, and they get through it quickly, right? The cows, what do? They see the storm, hey, buddy, let's get out of here, right? They take off running. And in the planes, eventually they get caught in the planes in the corner, and they get hit 10, 20, 30 times harder than the buffaloes that ran right at it, right? And I have another story. I don't know. I think I was more of a buffalo in this story of taking action. Back in 2004, when I was with the Reds, man, we used to play the Cubs all the time, and they used to dominate us. And it was such a frustrating thing at times because, you know, you'd go in there, Sammy Sosa, Derek Lee, Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor, Ramos Ramirez, some big heavy hitters, and they were loaded at the time. And, you know, we had some heavy hitters, but we had some not so good pitching. I think that was the problem. We used to get swept out of Wrigley all the time. But after the games, when you come to the bus, Murphy's Bleachers, the bar's there, and every time you come to the bus, the people at Murphy's Bleachers would just be berating us, like, you guys are terrible, we crush you every time. And it was like, at times it was so frustrating, right, year after year. And in 2004, we went into Wrigley, and the Cubs were a half game back of the wild card. So there were 7 games to play, and we were coming in for 4. Now, we weren't going to make the playoffs at the time, but we were still a good team. Obviously, we're still big league players. We can still beat anybody on any given day. And what's great about the big leagues is sometimes at the end of the year, you just look at the playoff teams, but you don't realize the teams that are on the fringe, they want to make a difference too. They want to impact the race, right? And we had the chance to do that with the Reds in 2004 to impact that race because we had 4 games against the Cubs coming in. So we got together in the clubhouse, and I got everybody around us. I said, hey, listen, at the end of the day, this is our postseason. This is our playoffs. And we got to find a way to impact this race. Let's go out there and take care of business, take care of the Cubs. And we kind of rallied. Although we came out the gates, we lost game 1. But it didn't matter because the whoever was in that race had won, so it stayed at a half game. And then we swept the next 3 games of the Cubs. Well, we took it to them. We delivered it. You know, we got good pitching. We had timely hitting. We figured out a way, you know, to really win. And after the game, the Cubs are now mathematically eliminated, right? So I think they were 3.5 back because the Marlins had won 3 in a row. We won 3 in a row. So with 3 to play, they were 3.5 back, and they were out, right? And so we get on the team bus afterwards. Suits are on. There's 3 games to go in the year. It's a Thursday day game, so it's about 5 o'clock, and we're rolling down Wrigley, and it's Wrigley traffic, right? And we're all fired up. We're on the bus. It's like a big party. We're like, man, that was our playoffs right there. Felt like we won the World Series. Meanwhile, we're going home in 3 days, but that's another story. But we were so excited just, you know, to have made a difference in that race. And sure enough, here we go. We're driving down out of Wrigley, and we're in standstill traffic because obviously it's 5 o'clock in Chicago, and we get about 5 blocks away from Wrigley Field, and we're having a great time on the bus. And for some reason, I didn't know that buffalo story back then, but I know it now. I started to feel like a buffalo for some reason because I looked to my right and I saw this packed bar, local, just bar in this little community of Cub fans, and you could tell they were all kind of bummed, and they were all like, just eating their chicken wings and maybe having a few beers and just really upset that the season's over for the Cubs. And so I went up to the bus driver and I said, hey, you got to let me out. And the bus driver was like, can't let you out, man. We're moving. We're in traffic. And I said, hey, Lark. So that's when I turned to Barry Larkin. Hey, Lark, tell the bus driver to let me out. And Lark was like, what are you doing? So now I'm like, just tell him. And Lark's like, hey, you got to let him out. So he lets me out, and I go storming in like a buffalo into this bar. Just, excuse me. Got a suit on, just, finagling my way through. I get to the middle of the bar, and I just yell at the top of my lungs. This would probably be dangerous in 2022, but 2004 it was still okay, I guess, in this world. So I'm like, hey, all you Cub fans. And now the record kind of stops. Everyone turns. They look at me. I'm like, it's a little dicey. Now I'm like, this could be a bad idea, but I'm just going to go with it. I'm like, all you Cub fans, the Cincinnati Reds just kicked your butts. I said, like they say in Chicago, better luck next season, right? And I'm like, okay, I just delivered the message. Now I got to get the heck out of here, right? So I'm standing there. Now, like, seriously, this is the true story. 20 dudes start I guess they were pretty angry. The Cubs were out, and I was taunting them, so I think I became pretty angry. These guys, start coming for me. And I'm like, Man, I'm just kidding. I'm a baseball player. It's just a joke. And then now it's not a joke. So I just start flying out of this bar, right, running out. I'm now not saying excuse me. I'm just plowing people as I go out. And I'm telling the bus driver, open the door, open the door. You know, it's like the Dukes of Hazzard when you slide across the roof and they get in the thing. So I'm like, open the door. And so, bam, I literally jump onto the bus. Door shuts. 20 people start pounding the bus. I get on the bus. The whole team is now lined up against the window going, hey, yeah, you know, we're yelling at these fans. I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous anyway, but we're yelling at these fans, and they're like, is that Sean Casey? You know, tell him to come out. I'm like, I'm not coming out there. You know, you had your chance when I was in the bar. I'm not coming out there now. What are you, nuts? So, you know, we go through the thing, we're pounding, you know, the bus goes off, we ended up going to the airport, and one of the coolest conversations I ever had in the big leagues. I'm sitting next to Barry Larkin, and he's like, hey, listen. He's like, I've been in the big leagues a long time. He goes, I've been in the big leagues for 19 years, Case, and I've seen championships. I've seen a lot of great things. He goes, that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I was like, yes! When Barry Larkin's saying that, and I was with Lark recently at David Ortiz's charity event, and I was literally like just a fly on the wall. I was over here, and Lark's talking, and next thing you know, I hear him tell the story. I'm like, yeah, Barry Lark is still telling that story 18 years later. Big time, you know? Feather in the cap. The last part of the gaps I talk about of really, you know, living the life is the process of it all, right? The process of all the things that we do in life, and that I think the biggest thing is just, we used to say to each other in the big leagues, process over results. Process, not results. Like, show up every day for the pitch. Show up every day. One pitch at a time is going to win us games. Is going to win us one inning at a time. Is going to win us games as we move on. Process over results. Process over results. Focus on the task at hand. It was like one of those things. Don't get caught up in the results. And what was great was about that process was, hey, I think one thing about life, you know, we're going to have failures at times. And I think the biggest thing about in baseball was, if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you were like, hey, man, you're doing great. If you fail 7 out of 10 times in your companies, they're like, you're fired, right? So, like, failure was built into the process. And sometimes I think failure sometimes is built into the process of our life, right? And it's kind of how we respond to that. I always say failure's information, failure's data. It's always how you look at it, whatever that perspective is, right? And I want to finish up with this story here. And it's so funny because I look back at my life, and I remember early on having a story that helped me in the big leagues. 1998, I'm a rookie, and Barry Larkin's on the mic. We're in Montreal. I'm hitting $150 at the time, just struggling. I just came back from an injury. I'm just not really doing well. And Barry Larkin, it's probably like we had just landed in Montreal. I want to say it's like 12:30 at night. And he says, okay, guys, rookie initiation time. I'm like, oh, come on. It's the last thing I need right now, you know, rookie initiation. So he's like, okay, we're going to bring the rookies up, and we're going to do an initiation. So the first guy to bring up is a guy named Mike Frank. Played a cup of coffee with the Reds, you know, was just up here in 98, was my roommate. They're like, Mike Frank, come on up. So Mike Frank goes to the front of the bus. They're like, all right, Mike, what's your name? Full name, Michael John Frank. Where are you from? Santa Clara, California. Okay, Mike, sing us a song or tell us a story. Mike's like, I don't think I have any stories. Let me sing you a song. And he starts going into Star Spangled Banner. He's like, oh, say. They're like, you sit down, you're a bum. You know, the bus starts going nuts, like literally like it's a riot. They're like, sit down, you're terrible, this isn't funny, you don't sing. So Mike Frank comes, sits next to me. Now I'm rattled. He's like, dude, that didn't go well, and it's really uncomfortable up there. So, oh, this isn't good. You know, so this guy, Pat Watkins, they bring up Pat Waddy. Waddy goes up there, hey, what's your name? Hey, Patrick, Stephen Michael Watkins, where are you from? I'm from, Charlotte, North Carolina. Sing us a song and tell a story. And he starts singing like, every rose has this. They're like, boo, sit down, you stink, you know. So I'm the last guy to go. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I can't sing. I'm one of the worst singers going. I'm like, and I don't think I'm like, what story do I have to tell? So I swear it was like a spirit moment for me. They're like, all right, Sean Casey, come up. I'm the last rookie to come up. I start just going slow. I'm like, do I have anything to say? I don't want to get booed out of here. It's like, all right, what's your name? Tell us your name. I'm Sean Thomas Casey. Where are you from? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Don't boo. And then they're like, okay, sing us a song or tell us a story. And I'm like, right before I got up there, I had a story, and I'm like, man, should I tell it? And they're like, and I'm like, yeah, it's the only thing I have. It's a Hail Mary, right? So I drop it on them. I used to wet the bed in 3rd grade. All of a sudden, that's exactly what I got on the bus. Little laughter, little silence. They wanted to hear more. I was like, oh, I got him. So I'm like, used to wet the bed in 3rd grade. And I'm like, the coolest kid in town was a guy named Chris Jeffrey back in the day. He had the Atari 5200. He had the new Cool Ranch Dorito bags. And he had the 2 liters of Orange Crush, right? And everyone knew it. And Chris would come up to me every Friday and say, Case, can you sleep over tonight? And I'd be like, let me go ask my mom, right? So I'd go home to Joan Casey. Mom, Chris wants to know if I could sleep over. He's got the Atari. He's got the Cool Ranch Doritos. He's got the Orange Crush. Think I can sleep over? He's like, no, you can't sleep over. You've wet the bed 3 weeks in a row. He's like, and Mrs. Jeffrey's my best friend. So I'm like, all right, that makes a lot of sense. So now, mind you, I'm up on the bus. I got the attention of the team now. I'm like, I got these guys locked in, right, in this story. So my mom says, I'll make you a deal. She called me Shawnee. Shawnee, she's from New York. Shawnee, I'll make you a deal. She said, if you don't wet the bed for 3 weeks, I'll let you sleep at Chris Jeffrey's house. I'm like, yes, okay, let me grind through. So a couple weeks went by, it didn't go so well, 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off, you know what I mean? So about 4 weeks later, I'm like, all right, boom, now it's time to start grinding. So I start grinding. I'm like, okay, don't drink after 5. It's pretty cool for a 3rd grader to start like figuring it out, So I'm like, okay, this is the equation. Don't drink after 5. Boom, boom, boom. Go to the bathroom before you go to bed. Okay. So swear, it's like Wednesday on the 3rd week. I'm like, I'm 2 days away. I'm not even telling my mom, but I know I'm locked in. She has to know I'm locked in too because she hasn't changed any sheets in 3 weeks, right? So I get to Friday, and that morning I'm eating breakfast. I'm like, Mom, I did it. I'm 3 weeks out. She's like, hey, you're right. That was the deal. I go, that was the deal, right? She goes, yeah. Well, I go over Chris's night. If he asked me to come over, she's like, yeah, no, that's the deal. All right, cool. So she goes, if Chris asks you to sleep over, though, you have to do me a favor. She goes, the only way you're allowed to sleep over is if you go to the bathroom, is if you stop drinking before 6 and you go to the bathroom right before you go to bed. I was like, boom, that's easy. I've been doing that the last 3 weeks. Domination time, right? So Chris comes up to me in school, Case, can you sleep over? I'm like, yeah, I can sleep over. He's like, all right, let's go. I'm like, I'm so fired up, He's like, how come you can sleep over now? I was like, don't worry about it. It's a whole other story. So I go over to Chris's house. It is everything I thought it would be. We're playing Pitfall. I don't know if you guys, anyone in here has played Pitfall back in the day in track and field where you're just taking the joystick and you're ripping it, Literally, never had a Cool Ranch Dorito in my life. Eating it now, I wouldn't have them now because I don't think they're that good for you. But back then, we didn't know that. We thought they were delicious for you. Crushing a whole bag of Cool Ranch, Orange Crush. Literally, a time of my life. This is the greatest night ever, right? So Mrs. Jeffrey's like, okay, guys, time to go to bed. So I'm like, okay, it's time to go to bed. I'm like, what do I gotta do? I gotta go to the bathroom before I go to bed. All right, so finish off the Orange Crush. Boom. At about 8:58, 9 o'clock. Time to go to bed, got the tighty whities on back then, 2 beds there, Mrs. Jeffrey's like, okay, guys, I go to the bathroom, get in bed, I'm like, all right, have a great night, guys. I'm like, thanks so much, it's just such the greatest night of my life, Chris, so thankful I'm here, you're such a great friend. So, we go to bed, boom, couple hours later, I get up just like I've been doing the last 3 weeks, go to the bathroom, get back in bed, bam. I don't know if it's ever happened to anybody in this room, but it's happened to me. I realized, great job. You're really doing it. You're doing everything you can do. And then I realized, good job going to the bathroom. I'm dreaming. I didn't hit the bathroom. Turns out I'm in the bed. I'm like, gah! 3 weeks of domination. I'm at the Jeffrey's house, and now I'm freaking, I'm going to the bed. But I don't know if you've ever wet the bed before. That first 10 minutes isn't bad. You're like, this ain't bad. It's like the poor man's hot tub. You're like, I can grind through this, But you get to minute 11, you're like, I'm freezing. I'm freezing now. So I'm like, I got to make a move. So I'm like, what do I do at someone else's house? I've never been in this situation before. So I grind it out. I go into the hallway and I just start crying. I'm like, ah! And like, nobody wakes up. So I got to cry a little hard. I'm like, ah! Out comes Mrs. Jeffrey. Sean, what's wrong? I'm like, I wet the bed. She's like, oh, man, that's okay. And then she looks down. She's like, yeah, you did wet the bed. So she's like, let's get you out of that underwear that used to be white. Now it's yellow. Let's get you out of that underwear. And it's like, what do you usually do when you wet the bed at home? I was like, I sleep with my parents. She's like, oh, okay, well, let's get you out of underwear. He comes in to sleep with me and Mr. Jeffrey. I'm like, yes, right? And I'm kind of like the Chris Farley little kid, like, yeah, I'm like so excited about life. And so I go into their bed. Mr. Jeffrey's in there. They got one of those like pillow comforters, like at the Westin you get. Like there's the big, white one. Although the Westin, they're not as good as they were 10 years ago. Anyway, huge pillow comforter. It's so nice. I snuggle up to Mr. Jeffrey. Hey, what's going on, Mr. Jeffrey? He's like, whoa, what's going on? I'm like, I went to bed, and now I'm in here just hanging out with you. He's like, all right, what's going on here? So I'm snuggled in between Mr. Jeffrey and Mrs. Jeffrey, big comfort over, and I don't know, I think it was the Orange Crush or whatever, it was messing with me. So I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom again. So I'm like, no way can I let that happen again. So I army crawl over Mr. Jeffrey, kind of like, nuzzle him a little bit. Bam, into the bathroom I go to the bathroom, then jump back in between Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey. And then I realize it again. Oh my God, I'm dreaming again. Now mind you, I'm on the bus. I got Barry Larkin, Lenny Harris, all these guys dying laughing. I'm like, this is unbelievable. They have not booed me off stage yet, right? So I just have a problem. But the great thing about the first 10 minutes is no one's reacting because everyone's like, hey, this ain't bad, right? It's like an electric blanket we got going on here, right? So 11 minutes hit, Mr. Jeffrey, bam, he must have been freezing. He jumps out of bed. He's like, what's going on here? Mrs. Jeffrey jumps out of bed. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on here. 3 weeks I did it so good. And now I've wet your bed, Chris's bed, So at 5 in the morning, my mom, Mrs. Jeffrey gets on the phone. Joan? Oh yeah, is everything all right, hon? No, it's not all right. Your son's wet every bed in the house. Can you please come pick him up? And they're like, yeah, no problem. So my mom picked me up, took me off. Barry Larkin made me come up and tell that story for the 8 years I was with the Cincinnati Reds. Whenever we do initiation, he's like, Case, rookie initiation, come on up and tell the bedwetting story. I'm like, okay, great. So anytime we have a little failure, how we respond is all that matters. I can't believe that I used that story to help me as a 23-year-old kid in the big leagues to make sure no one booed me off the stage. Well, it's unbelievable. Hey, listen, I just want to tell you guys, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so honored to be a part of the Scouts. What you guys mean to our community, what you guys mean to the next generation of kids, and all the people that support the Scouts. I run a charity in Pittsburgh called the Miracle League of the South Hills, and we rely on so many people that support us that are to be a part of our organization. And I know that everyone in this room today knows the value of what the Scouts bring and that they're the next generation of our wonderful country. So, hey, great to be back in Cincinnati. Thank you so much for having me today. The power's in the gaps. We will see you next time. Thank you so much. I'm going to be throwing some balls with John. Okay.
Sean Casey, ladies and gentlemen. Great round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Here, and stick around here for a second. Here. We don't have any Orange Crush, but you can drink that right now. We're going to finish things up today with this special giveaway. We have drew 5 pledge cards from folks who have given in 2022 and during today's program, and we're going to give all of these 5 people an autographed baseball. Right on. And the coolest thing is that you're gonna get for our 5 people, you're gonna get them there from Travis right there in the middle. And Sean, you're gonna be throwing these out to him. Take it easy, right? He's still got a few more years in him. I don't know. I haven't thrown him in a while. Yeah. Anyway, so here I'm gonna read each name and each one gets their ball. So the first ball goes to Judd Weiss from table 53.
All right.
Judd Weiss.
All right. Heads up.
There we go. The next one goes to Gina Harden at table 44.
Gina, where are you? Where are you?
And the third ball goes to Lawrence Keller from table 10.
All right, Lawrence.
And next to number 4, Philip Giardina at table 17.
17.
There we go. Philip.
Just kidding.
Here we go. You got one more. Okay, here we go. And last but not least, Nathan Paschikowski from table 36. Nathan Paschikowski.
All right, Nathan.
There we go. And we're happy to report that today here for the Dan Beard Council, here at the conclusion of this event, we have raised more than $300,000 to support local scouting programs. Congratulations, everyone. If you've yet to fill out that pledge card, we still want some more. So there's staff waiting by the doors to pick those up. We're going to be back next year, of course, to honor another outstanding Good Scout from our community. Thank you all so very, very much for coming, and be prepared. Thanks, everybody. Good afternoon.
Good job, John.
Thank you, my friend.